Okay, hi guys, my name's Abby with US Flight Co. and I'm an instructor here. And today we're going to be talking about steep turns, which I think can be one of the more challenging maneuvers that you do in your private pilot check ride. So up here so far we're just going to talk about the ACS standards, so the standards that you need to meet to pass the check ride for the maneuver to be satisfactory. So the turn is going to be 360 degrees plus or minus 10 degrees, meaning that you're going to roll out on a heading that you started plus or minus 10 degrees on either side. The bank of the maneuver is 45 plus or minus 5 degrees. Altitude you need to maintain is your starting altitude plus or minus 100 feet. And then you need to be maneuvering at or below your maneuvering speed for your aircraft. Okay, cool. So now I'm going to talk about common errors with steep turns and why when I started doing them, it took me a while to get the hang of things. Okay, so as you guys know, when you roll into a turn in an aircraft, when you roll into bank, what's happening is that your weight is always acting towards the earth, the weight of your aircraft, but the lift is going to be acting perpendicular to the surface of the wing. So when you roll into a bank, what's happening is that you are losing this vertical component of lift because you now have a vector this way for horizontal component of lift, meaning for every degree of bank, you are losing more and more of that vertical component of lift because your lift is acting this way. So the biggest thing with the steep turns is going to be maintaining that altitude when you're losing that vertical component of lift. So how we counteract that is the loss of that vertical component of lift is by adding back pressure to the elevator to help us maintain altitude. Okay, and then another thing to consider as a common issue with the steep turn and the aerodynamics that are happening is when you are in a steep turn and your plane is traveling around, what happens is that your outer wing is traveling faster than your inner wing. And so what happens is faster means more airflow, means more lift generated, so the plane has a tendency to overbank. So we counteract the overbank with a little bit of opposite aileron. So the plane does not, we have to balance that so we're not overbanking past the 45 degrees. Okay, so I remember when I was learning to do steep turns, I would get into my nice 45 degrees of bank, not paying attention to my rudder at all. And what I would notice is that I'm in my 45 degrees, my rudder is not coordinated, my plane is not coordinated, so the ball is on the inside of my turn because it's a slipping turn. So then I would apply, let's say I'm doing a left steep turn, I would apply the left rudder, and what that does is it really tightens up your turn. So it's going to make you feel like you're going faster, the circle is tighter. So what I like to tell students is be proactive with your rudder. When I initiate a steep turn, I'm always going to add a little bit of rudder in the direction that I'm starting my steep turn. Okay, tip number 2 is be assertive with your back pressure. So what happens is that we get into this steep turn, we've found our bank, we're coordinated with our rudder, and what happens is if you're not proactive with your back pressure, eventually you're going to lose that vertical component of lift, it's going to catch up with you, and your plane is going to start to dive towards the ground because you're losing altitude. So what I like to do is you don't want to climb, but as you roll into that steep turn, just gradually apply back pressure, and then when you're fully coordinated, you're going to realize how much you need. Kind of hand in hand with that, you could also apply some nose up trim to help you out with that. Okay, third and final tip is a bump of power. So I like to, as you know, you're going to be losing that vertical component of lift, you're going to be applying that back pressure. So what I like to do is give a little bit of thrust, addition of thrust prior to the maneuver. So how I initiate the maneuver, you're at a good maneuvering speed. You are going to do bump of power, rudder in the direction of the turn, bank to 45, be assertive with that back pressure, and then execute and roll out plus or minus 10 degrees of your initial heading.
So we're going to work on some steep turns today. First, let's clear the area, do a clearing turn. We're going to maintain 3,000. All right, so steep turns. We are going to bank for 45, we're going to be maintaining 3,000, and let's start on a west heading. The thing that I want you to do for both of them is just to be cognizant because you need to roll out. If you start on the west heading, you need to roll out on your heading plus or minus 10 degrees, right? So as you're going and you're looking outside and you're cross-checking your instruments, I just want you to call out west, south, east, north, like, you know, if you were doing a left turn.
Okay.
So, all right, so let's get to a good maneuvering speed. In this plane, it's like, what?
95, I think.
Yeah.
97.
Yeah, I think 90, 95 would be good. Let's do 90. I think 97 is max maneuvering speed. Don't quote me on that. We were reading the POH yesterday, weren't we? Okay, altitude's looking good. So for this one, here's what I want. I want you good maneuvering speed. We're going to try to maintain 3,000, but we're going to demonstrate kind of what happens if you don't give that really assertive back pressure with your elevator. So we're going to kind of let our nose come down just like it wants to do, right? And we're going to see the trend on the vertical speed when we do that. So let's start with one to the left. And let's also underuse our rudder here. So don't really mess with the rudder, and let's just start, get into a 45-degree bank to the left.
13.5, descending 1,000.
The little bump of power there is nice. And don't dive, but just don't give it like that really nice back pressure that you'll end up needing. Right now you can see we're maintaining altitude. We're also not at 45 yet, so be assertive about that 45. Nice. Okay, so now you can see as we're going out, we're losing that vertical component of lift. So what our vertical speed wants to do is start that dive. So now you're going to try to correct it by pulling back. Back. We're getting really fast, so pull back some power. And you can see we've lost 500 feet of altitude north. And back to west. Nice. Roll out. All right, roll out was good. Right on west. Okay, let's climb back to 3,000. Okay, so awesome. Another thing that I find is if you are in a steep turn and you're not staying coordinated with your rudder, and the ball is on the inside of your turn, so let's say you were in that left turn, and we see the ball on the inside, and you kind of retroactively add your rudder, it's going to tighten your turn up and make it really hard to maintain that control in bank. So we're back at 3,000. We're at a pretty good maneuvering speed. We're on westbound. You want to go to the left again, or you want to go to the right?
We'll do the right.
Okay, so this time we're going to be a little bit more proactive with that back pressure, and we're going to maintain that 3,000, you know, plus or minus a little bit within the standards, but let's give it a go. So we're going to start the maneuver, bump of power, initiate with the rudder in the direction of your turn to keep it coordinated the whole way. We can start at 31, that's fine. All right, and get right into that 45, roll into it, and then as you roll, we're not going to climb, but we're going to start being assertive with that back pressure on your yoke. All right, north. There we go. We feel that little bit of decrease east. Okay, now go back a little bit with your bank. So ease off on the bank just a little bit south. Now we're kind of in a slight climb. That's all right. We're approaching west. All right, so a little bit of up and down there. Wasn't bad though. We get that little bump at the end from our own wake turbulence. All right, so we're starting on west. And remember, take some time. Like, you don't want to be initiating this maneuver when you are climbing or descending. Let's get at a really nice steady cruise.
Departure, radar contact, or right on course.
And then we'll do it. So that's another kind of thing to remember too, is if you find yourself getting kind of too into the turn, you can give yourself a little opposite aileron, and that kind of eases it up a little bit.
Departure, radar contact.
Yeah, do one.
Like a fully impulsive traffic, 6 blocks.
Whatever direction you choose, make it a good one. Okay. So bump of power. Rudder in the direction of turn. We are going to get right into that 45-degree bank, and we're going to start that back pressure.
Traffic, 7 miles north, west, south, eastbound, out 2,300.
Looking for traffic, 020. All right. All right, and so we're starting that little bit of a dive. A little bit of opposite aileron. There's north.
With information 5
and
miles
west
to the northwest inbound for blank children.
All right, so we're at 35. We're a little bit fast, so let's slow down a touch. All right, so this time, what I'm seeing in general is a trend that you don't start the back pressure until you feel that dive happening. So let's be really assertive with the back pressure. I'm not saying climb, but I want you to right away be focusing. Alternatively, you could give it a little bit of nose up trim, and that'd help you out too. But I feel like you like to do it manually. It's just your style.
So before I feel the dive?
Just like look at the vertical speed, and that's what you're keeping.
Maintain 3,000.
All right, we're at north. Let's do it. All right, look at your ball right now. It's a little bit off, it's a little bit of left rudder.
020, traffic no factor, altitude, your discretion.
Traffic no factor, altitude, our discretion, 020.
Flight 2, traffic no factor.
All right, this is much better. You feel how balanced this is?
210, contact tower, 18.3.
All right, so south, we're going all the way back to north, remember? A little bit more back pressure.
Extension 809, 200, climbing 5,000.
Okay, watch your ankle of bank.
Contact, 10,000.
Over banking there a little bit.
extension 809.
And rolling out.
North American 1985.
All right, we ended on a little bit of a climb, but still within standards. That was good.
Okay, thank you guys for watching.